In March 1984, Gary Plauché became a symbol of vigilante justice when he shot and killed Jeff Doucet, the man who kidnapped and sexually abused his 11-year-old son, Jody. The incident unfolded in the Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport as Doucet, under police escort, was being returned from California after his capture.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. By all accounts, a devoted father. He was emotionally devastated.
Plauché, disguised in a baseball cap and sunglasses, waited near the arrival area. As Doucet walked by, Plauché pulled out a concealed handgun and shot him in the head at point-blank range, killing him instantly. The event was broadcast live on local television, capturing the nation's attention.
My camera raced it up to get a close-up shot of him. So I got a close-up shot, and as he got...
Plauché's actions sparked widespread debate. While some condemned his vigilante approach, others empathized with a father pushed to the brink.
We didn't know what to do. You just feel helpless.
In court, Plauché was charged with manslaughter but avoided prison time. He received a 7-year suspended sentence, 5 years of probation, and 300 hours of community service. The leniency reflected the court's recognition of his emotional torment and Doucet's heinous crimes. To this day, Plauché's act is often cited as a stark reminder of the lengths to which a parent might go when faced with the trauma of their child's suffering. His son, Jody, later forgave his father and went on to advocate for victims of abuse. Sharing his story in the book, Why, Gary, Why? The very question reporters shouted as Plauché pulled the trigger.
Why? Gary, why? And to this day, it stands out in my mind, the shooter, Gary Plauché, says, if it had been your child, you would have done the same thing too.
Michael Madison was a convicted serial killer responsible for the brutal murders of 3 young women in Cleveland, Ohio.
An 18-year-old is now accused of stabbing a 62-year-old woman and 3 kids on Cleveland's east side.
During his 2016 sentencing, emotions ran high as families of the victims delivered their impact statements.
Was never any trouble.
Timothy Galaski says he prayed when he first heard the news, shocked because he says Madison never bothered anyone.
Van Terry, the father of Sherelda Terry, approached the podium, hoping to convey the depth of his pain. But when Terry saw Madison smirking, he could no longer contain his rage. Without warning, Terry leaped across the courtroom table, reaching Madison and attempting to strike him.
Just to show you that the killer continues to smile, this man is sentenced to death for killing 3 people.
Court officers quickly intervened, dragging Terry away, but not before he managed to get a few hits in. The courtroom erupted into chaos as other family members screamed and cried.
In case you missed it, I just want to...
The dramatic scene underscored the intense emotional weight of the trial, where Madison faced the death penalty. For many, Terry's actions were understandable. A visceral response to the unimaginable loss and Madison's apparent lack of remorse.
Time, his lawyers blaming childhood abuse by the hands of his mother Diane.
Though Terry faced no serious legal repercussions for the outburst, the incident became a defining moment of the trial. It highlighted the profound impact of violent crimes on the victims' families and the fragile balance between justice and raw human emotion.
It just makes you wonder, what was he thinking and what was the motive and what was his mindset and why.
Madison ultimately received a death sentence, but the memory of Terry's leap remains a powerful symbol of a father's grief boiling over into action. Matthew Komrowski, a Rhode Island man, was at the center of a courtroom attack following his arrest for the 2011 murder of his fiancée, Shirley Donnelly.
We've learned the Facebook page was discovered by the murder victim's son.
It's like any other Facebook page. In one post, Matthew Komrowski appears to be telling the world he's bored.
Authorities alleged that Komrowski killed Donnelly and set her apartment on fire to destroy evidence.
It was more than that, his rap sheet. It was arson, domestic, attempted murder, assault. It went on and on and on.
While confined to a mental health facility due to incompetency rulings, Komrowski's case stirred outrage.
It's just further violating. They get to see more, an update, a fast-forward image of this person that they're trying to deal with and block out of their mind and go on with their lives.
During one court appearance, tensions reached a boiling point when a member of Donnelly's family managed to breach security and physically attack Komrowski.
It was quite a scene. After a heated exchange, court officers had to physically restrain a visitor inside the courtroom during the arraignment of the Cranston murder suspect.
The confrontation, though quickly subdued, highlighted the family's grief and frustration over years of legal delays. The incident, coupled with Komrowski's controversial behavior, such as posting explicit content online from within the hospital, fueled public outrage.
The man charged with last week's Cranston murder of his 38-year-old girlfriend, Shirley Donnelly, and then setting a fire to cover it up.
Komrowski's eventual return to court after being declared competent reignited calls for justice. The attack underscored the raw emotions that victims' families endure.
We are told by the victim's family that he had a lengthy criminal record and he had only been let out of jail 2 days prior to Donnelly's murder.
As they navigate a slow and often painful judicial process. In Syracuse, New York, Wendell McNeil stood before the court in 2023 to be sentenced for manslaughter. He had pleaded guilty to fatally stabbing a man, leaving the victim's family devastated. As McNeil began to apologize during sentencing, two men, relatives of the victim, charged at him, managing to land several blows before court officers intervened. The altercation was swift but impactful, leaving the courtroom in disarray. McNeil was ultimately restrained, and the sentencing resumed under heightened security. The attack underscored the family's pain, highlighting the intense emotional toll that violent crimes have on loved ones. Despite the disruption, the judge acknowledged the family's grief while urging for order and justice through lawful means.